why that wasn't sort of responded to either by CAO or whether that should have been a council thing. I wasn't sure. I didn't do anything. I waited for someone else to sort of take the lead on that. This one was directed to me. So before I reached out to the employee, I reached out to the mayor and I asked what would be protocol, because my understanding is we have one employee and that's the CAO, and that if we were to be having a question or a concern about an employee, we wouldn't go directly to the employee, whether it was something that came out of a public meeting or it came out because we've had issues. I know that there's been issues of with other town employees in public meetings, but it usually goes back to the CAO and the CAO deals with it, or he doesn't. It's up to him how he sort of handles it. And I kind of thought it was the same thing. So I asked what would be the best thing to do. Should I respond on over email, or should this go back to the CAO? I believe the mayor reached out to the CAO and he was not available over the weekend. And he chose to respond and say that we were going to deal with it as a in-camera council issue, or that he was going to be talking to the CAO as to whether or not he wanted to deal with it. I then called the CAO and I talked to the CAO on Monday, and I asked him whether he would like me to respond to the staff or whether he wanted to deal with it himself. And he told me that he would be talking to the staff member, and that I explained the situation and my side of the situation. And he told me that he was going to be talking to the staff member.
Okay, we're into the actual agenda item now, as opposed to whether it should be in camera or whether it should be out of camera.
And that's important point. That's important that we discuss this, because this again is not an in-camera issue. The comments made by Councillor Rose were made in public. That individual responded back to Councillor Rose. She then decided to take it to the mayor and to the CAO, and was wondering, should we call municipal affairs? When in fact, what she should have done is accepted that she said what she said, and then clarify it to that individual like a grown adult.
Okay, let's stop the discussion on it, Michael. Hold on, I don't have a problem if it goes in camera or out of camera. Brian, the person involved, Councillor Rose, do you feel it needs to be in or out, or CAO Martinson?
Well, I thought I dealt with it.
Okay. Well, are we fine of just putting it in as a new business item then? Because I think the discussion that we've needed to have has already been pretty much talked about. There wasn't much more other than a little bit on what council needs to do too. So
my question to Mr. Martinson, when I asked him if he would like me to respond to it or whether he wanted to deal with it, if he says that he's responded to it and it's dealt with, then I don't know that it's something for our agenda anymore. And if CAO Martinson would like me to respond to the staff member, then that's what I will do.
Well, I think we need to have a little discussion and a reminder for all of council on what we're saying, and making sure we have that discussion too. It's not necessarily in camera, but we are talking about one specific person that from staff. That person in staff was never identified in the other part of the meeting, and we would be bringing it out in public, which she may not want that to happen. And that's why I recommended in camera. There was never any names involved. So I would prefer to keep it in camera. And I mean, it's out there already. We've had a discussion and we can finalize that after.
Again, it goes, we sometimes get ahead of ourselves, and as we gain more experience and knowledge of what it takes to be a good counselor and what it takes to be a good council. Abilities and what are the do's and do nots. And so this issue should never have come forward. It should have been a one-on-one as a taxpayer to an elected official, not to have the elected official somehow make this person, maybe possibly, this is how I would feel, that an elected official is coming after me personally, that's inappropriate. And I don't know what else to say. Is it any of you counselors there, if you just wouldn't do it. And so it's an issue of an apology, of a discussion with the person, but it's not an issue for us, period. Unless you want to talk about the governance issue. And then I'll talk about that till the cows come home.
It is an issue in how we deal with these situations moving forward, and we need to clarify that. That's what I want to make sure we're addressing, because I don't think it's appropriate to be starting into lengthy email discussions offline on stuff like this, because it could escalate, and that's what we don't want to have. And that's what I wanted to talk about tonight.
That's why telephone is a really good tool. It avoids all the Twitter and all of the crap that's out there on the social internet and everything else, and accept it and talk. God forbid that we were elected to talk, right?
Okay.
So I say just,
Brian,
it's not for us to decide, and it's not for us to discuss.
Brian, maybe we could hear from the other counselors, see what they think first, since you're asking a couple of us.
Okay,
I'm asking.
Okay, anybody else have an issue with discussing it in camera? I see Arlen shaking his head. He has no issue. Judy, she doesn't seem to care from what I see in her face or in her eyes. Donna?
I just quickly read the email before I came on, so I haven't really looked at it in depth. But I think the issue that we need to discuss in camera is what are we going to do going forward? And how are we going to deal with the issue at hand and maybe reiterate the code of conduct, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I understand where you're coming from, Michael, in terms of just, be the big person, apologize, clarify, et cetera. But I think there's some things that need to be discussed in camera regarding this issue.
Okay, well, I'm going to move on. We'll leave it in camera. We'll move on. We'll have a discussion about that. And we have those three additions. We have 8.1, 8.2, and 17.1 to the agenda.
I would like a recorded vote. And for the record, I will not be attending that in-camera session. I won't. And so record the vote, please.
Okay, our vote will be recorded. All those in favor?
All those in favor of putting it in camera? Is that what we're voting for or not?
In adopting the agenda with those three changes: 8.1 JC Park, 8.2 Fort McMurray flooding, and 17.1 personnel in camera. And okay, did Nancy get that vote?
Nancy? Yeah.
She's got it. Okay, good. I see I don't have any scheduled delegations. Do we have any public delegations tonight?
Chris? No.
No public. Okay. Moving on to item 4.1, our Public Works report. Can I get a motion on that? And there's a hand from Councillor Gilroy.
Okay, I make a motion that Council receive the March 2020 Public Works report as presented for information.
Okay, thank you. And I see Vernon's moved into the camera spot. I'll turn it over to you to add anything you'd like to add to the report.
Nothing really to add to the report, but I'm free to answer questions. It was pretty self-explanatory as to what we've been up to. So if there's any questions, I'll take them.
All right. I'll throw it open to council. Any questions? Councillor Gilroy.
We've been talking a lot about COVID and the ability to make a coverage for all of our utilities. And you burn. The only question I've had is, do we have everyone in place who has all the appropriate tickets to run the facilities if, for example, you were not here? Because remember, right now we're in the midst of getting a new CAO, new treasurer, and we don't want to lose you, but would we have everyone in place? Is there some sort of setup that where everyone will have the appropriate tickets to man all the facilities?
We are in the process of getting people to write their level 3, but at this point we do not. We do have an arrangement with the MD to fill in if we needed to. But at this point, no, we do not have a level 3 operator other than myself.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It adds more confidence to people who know that we're doing the very best we can with the resources we have. So thank you, Vern.
But we do have 2 licensed level 2s, 2 licensed level 1s, and all of the people can run the gas system as they are cross-trained as utility operators for gas.
And that includes the water plant too, right?
No, that's the difference is we have 2 level 2 water plant operators and 2 level 1 operators that are in training right now. The gas utility is a 6-week course that we took over a 2-year period, and everyone but 2 of the utility staff have that course. So we have 5 licensed utility operators for gas.
All right, anybody else with questions? I don't see anybody's hand going up, but I had a couple of questions. I was just wondering what happened to the water treatment plant, that it was down for a while.
When was it down?
Well, I noticed it was closed and that people had to go to a NILDA.
Oh, the truck fill?
Yeah.
The water fill, the pump burnt out.
Oh,
And we had to get
okay.
a new pump put in. But we did put a sign up that we would fill them out of the shop, and people did come down to the shop and they were filled. And we did make arrangements with the MD to let them know that they may have extra people going to a NILDA. But it's up and running,
Okay.
and it's all good. It was down for a day and a half.
Okay. One of the other things, Vern, when we were, I guess, in the more of a shutdown when the banks weren't open, some of the people were indicating that it was difficult to get coins to plug into the bulk water station. Is there any ever looked at options like having refillable cards, like a TIM cards that you can refill online and not need it, or is it too expensive to add that kind of technology?
We've talked about it, and we're looking into, say, having a debit card, but with every transaction you pay a fee, right? So with every transaction, you're going to have to add a cost of that fee. Plus, in the past, with having a key lock or something that's similar to that, where people were allowed to charge and pay a bill, we got stung with that too, with people not paying their bills. So that's why it's been kind of pay as you go.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Walker? All right, Mr. Courtley.
Yeah, just to chime in on the water plant. It was up and going Saturday afternoon. I pulled water
Friday night.
Was it Friday night?
Yep. I put it on Facebook Friday night that it was up and running again. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, I hauled water Saturday night and it was good. It was all good. So, but yeah, with the loonies, anybody that hauls water to any extent usually is half-ass prepped, knowing that they have to have money in hand. I don't know of anybody that really, hey, Vern?
And with the banks, when the banks were closed, we put a sign out that it was available to get disinfected change from inside, because we did disinfect it prior to handing it back out again.
Right. Yeah. Just with big volumes, it's very awkward If you're hauling like 30 cubes or, trying to load a Super B, it's really awkward. But other than that, most of the vehicles like mine, I max out at $26. So you just have one roll with you at any given time, right? So it's
Well, it might be worth to see what that debit and what the options are. If you could bring something forward and council could look at if it's worth
We're looking
doing.
into that as we speak after there was comments there.
Yeah,
for
might
whatever,
be good.
For whatever reason, now it's not me, but that whole area seems to take quite amount of abuse sometimes. So I don't know if a debit machine really is the right thing to do having it out there, because there's all kinds of action there, and it that poor coin acceptor takes a beating sometimes.
Yeah, and there's been a hammer or two taken to it in the past.
Yeah.
And if there was no cash there, it might lower the amount of abuse that it took if it was more of a card system.
No, I think they just get upset with it not working, or they get upset with it, and and sometimes it's just kids that go out there, because it is kind of out in the field by itself, right?
Yeah.
Something to mess with.
Yeah.
All right. I see no more hands up. So thank you very much, Vern, for your report. We have a motion to receive for information. All of those in favor?
Debbie.
We seem to have lost Debbie. Well, just the camera's off and, oh, there she is. No vote, Debbie? All right, okay, all good. That motion passes. Moving on then to the next item, which is the minutes from April 7th. Can we get a motion on that? Go ahead, Councillor Courtley.
The council approved the minutes from the April 7th, 2020 special meeting of council as presented.
Okay, is there any changes that need to be made to that meeting minutes? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? And that motion passes. Moving on to 5.2, the minutes from our April 8th meeting. Can I get a motion regarding that one? I see Councillor Danaka waving.
I make a motion that council approve the minutes from the April 8th, 2020 special meeting of council as presented.
Thank you. Any changes to the April 8th meetings from the minutes that we have? I don't see anybody with changes, so we'll go to the vote. All those in favor? All right, that motion passes also. One more set of minutes to approve, the April 14th meeting. Can I get a motion on that one? I see no hand. Oh, Councillor Gilroy.
The council approved the minutes from the April 14th, 2020 regular meeting of council as presented.
Okay. Any changes needed to these minutes? I see nobody with changes, so we'll vote to approve them. All those in favor? All right, that motion passes.
I just
There
have
were
one
a couple
quick
spelling
question.
errors, but that's it.
Well, okay, maybe just pass them along really quickly so that they can be adjusted.
It just looks really bad on the meeting minutes where everybody's at when over half the people are in the council chambers. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure they kept social distancing there, but I mean, we're in our locations at home, but over half the people are still in the council chambers. Does that not look bad, or is it just me?
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know how you can fix that or how to change that, but I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know.
There's lots of distance between us here in the chamber, though.
No hugging, Brian? Nobody's hugging? Okay, just checking.
Vern don't like me that much.
I think he does.
Uh,
I'm not actually in the council chambers. It says that, but I'm not there. I'm in an office by myself.
Oh, okay.
And I'm in High Prairie, so I don't know. They can change that from Penticton. I've been
You
in High
were.
Prairie for a while.
Okay, well then we did have some changes. Did Brian, did you have those spelling errors that you wanted to mention? You're on mute, Brian.
one particular one was 10.3, just the spelling of counselor. Kuniller. So just,
Oh, yeah.
just a quick one on that one. It's nothing earth-shaking, just, as I said, little spelling error.
Okay, one spelling error and one location error. Okay, we had already passed them before we got into the errors, but but I think we can make those minor changes. Nobody would object to those two. Okay, moving on to, is there any business arising from any of those minutes that we need to discuss? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to new business. 8.1 JC Park. I'll turn it over to Councillor Stenhouse to start us off with a motion.
Okay. That council approve or uplift the restrictions on JC Park. JC Park isn't actually like I know they have these restrictions in the playgrounds, but it's not a playground, it's a walking park. And now that the weather's nice, we have people walking on the sidewalk.
Just stop. I want to get your motion before you
Okay.
start into a discussion. So.
Okay, so the motion is to lift the restrictions on JC Park.
Okay, thank you. And okay, now you can start on your discussion of why you think we should do that.
Why I think we should do that is because the weather's nice and we have people on the sidewalk, walking in the streets, they're walking down the highway. JC Park isn't a playground, it's a walking trail. I think it'd be a lot safer. People are getting into their social distancing. There's no reason why we couldn't lift the restrictions and let people walk in the park. City of Edmonton has shut down a lane of traffic just to let people walk. So that's my reasoning for lifting the restriction on the JC Park.
Councillor Gilroy, go ahead.
Councillor Stenhouse, quick question. When we're looking at, if we lift the restriction on JC Park, overall, instead of just restricting it to walking and that, are we then inviting people to have gatherings, and then we have to patrol it to make sure gatherings aren't over and above the numbers? I'm just wondering, because you're talking walking trails. I have no problem lifting it for walking trails and things like that, but gatherings itself in JC Park may exceed what the government wants us to do right now. So how do we enforce social distancing for groups like that?
Okay, well, I go walking every night. I walk the streets every night. And I see people walking on the sidewalk, in the streets, all over, and they're not gathering together. So it's no different. Let's get them in the park or allow them to use those walking trails, because it's not a playground. All it is walking trails.
I see. Did you have your hand up physically, Mr. Long? Yep. Okay, go ahead.
I guess my only question would be, yes, the weather is getting nice. What are the specialists and the doctors telling us? And I think that if we become too relaxed too soon, we've managed to keep our numbers down because we've been doing these things and staying at home and self-isolating as best as we can. I would say, what's the science say? Because what we feel and what we think is not fact. It's what we feel and what we think.
So we have people walking down the highway because they have nowhere to walk. What's safer, in JC Park or walking down the highway? And they're not gathering. It's only people are doing their social distancing. They're not gathering.
Okay, we'll let the others chime in before we keep going. We got Councillor Courtley, then Councillor Danaka, then Councillor Rose. Start.
I'm all for opening up the walking trails. I really do. Everybody, we can put up the distancing signs, but I think you put up the signs on the. You don't open up the ball diamonds.
No.
Right? No, you put up the sign saying no, not open due to COVID, but you open up the walking trails, because the walking trails are still gives our community a place to exercise still, and there's no gathering on the walking trails. You're going to have about 15 to 20 people, and not at the same time, but walking on the trails, and I think it's needed myself. And people are respectful now of everybody's space. You see it, you watch it, and the people that are going to be on those trails, I think, are that way. You can't police at 100%, but people are policing themselves. So I think it would be fair for our community to open that up, but with signs and warnings, and with signs and warnings on the ball diamonds not to be open, just the walking trails only for walking. How about bike riding?
Just lock the gates.
Okay, Councillor Danaka.
Okay. Presently, right now, what is the provincial guidelines on walking trails? They are closed, are they not?
My understanding is that walking trails are generally open.
So they are open.
Yeah, but parks are not, and where you might congregate. This is just my opinion. There's no common touch points on the walking trails like there would be in a park, where you're, in the ball diamonds, everybody's on the same benches and stuff like that, whereas the walking trails, it's just like the roads.
Okay. And my other thing is, the walking trails prior to COVID have been open, and where I reside, I can tell you at any given time, I see at least 7 to 10 people walking on the highway. This was when JC Park and the walking trails were open. So that's not going to make a difference to where people want to walk. But I thought walking trails were closed by provincial mandate, but if they're not, then I have no problem opening them, just the walking trails with signage to make sure people are aware of the social distancing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, Councillor Rose.
So yeah, I agree that they should be opened. I think that it's been reported to me from various people that just sort of get to view what's happening on the trails, that they're being used fairly regularly anyway, even though that they are closed. Provincially, like Councillor Danaka just brought to light, they're not closed in most areas. The parks are closed in most areas, but the walking trails are open. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have them open. People are walking on the street and they're walking on the highway to look for a place to walk, so they might as well be walking on the trails. You know, your question or our comments about baseball, I just think it's interesting that the city of Edmonton announced yesterday that they're considering opening up their baseball fields and to a maximum of 15, and only, you know, if you can maintain some social distancing. So they're already looking at doing that. And as you all know, I was stuck in BC for a while, and I got to see how they were handling things. And all of their trails and their parks are actually still open. They have sort of like police tape around all of the playgrounds, but the actual, you can walk on the beach. The fire pits have tape on them, and they say you're not allowed to sit around a fire pit, but you can sit on the beaches, you can walk on the trails, you can sit in their picnic tables. Lots of people having lunches in the parks. I think it's a mental health thing. I think it's very important that we deal with mental health, and if we can allow people to walk on the walking trails and sort of help and maintain mental health, I think that that's a thing. And the other thing that Dina Henshaw announced today was that it's okay to gather in groups of friends in somebody's yard. You can't share food, you can't share drink, but you can sit around and socially distance in small groups. And that was announced publicly today. So if we can do that, I don't see why we can't walk on our trails.
Okay, I'll just weigh in, and I would agree with opening the trails. I think would be all right also. I don't think it's a health hazard. And I do agree also that we should have some signs to maintain the social distancing and that there are no large gatherings. But I think it could be done. We may have people that want to start playing baseball if the diamonds are open, and that would be gatherings of people and probably would jeopardize the social distancing. But if they're just going out there and walking the trails, I think that's perfectly fine also. All right, Mr. Martinson, do you have anything to add to this? Anything that you know of differently?
Vern just told me that we'd lock the gates to JC Park, the big ones, so nobody can drive in, and put signage up to mention the distancing and the gatherings. So we'll do that tomorrow.
We can open the trails without opening the gates though, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that will keep people off of the park and the baseball diamonds, right? We can just say the trails only are open, and they can park right there by the Yak, and they can walk from there, or they could park in Councillor Gilroy's church parking lot and go from there.
Shall I talk about the people who parked at our church parking lot at 1:45 in the morning to have a hide and seek? No.
Yeah.
But you did bring up a good point there, Councillor Rose, and that is, I think that if we're going to open it up, we also need to be aware of potential parking infractions where they're blocking private property. No, I'm serious, because they could block the cornerstone, or they could block other areas in parking. And if it's an abuse, then we were going to have to look at it again, because we have to also look at the other citizens. And my concern would be then people parking in all over the place and disrupting other taxpayers.
All right, yeah, and that's a legitimate concern that there might be some parking issues, but I'm sure if we watch them and make some announcements not to block any areas while they're getting there. I'm sure most of the people from town walk to the trails to walk around them, but there are some that will drive there. They're a long ways away.
Could they park down to JC at the Elks Park entrance and then walk around that way?
They can, yep.
That might be a way to solve it all, because that's got lots of room to park. Just a thought.
Councillor Stenhouse.
Okay. They could also park at the high school. There's lots of parking there.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a problem unless, if we get it, we can deal with it, but I don't think it should be a problem. Okay, everybody's had a chance to speak on this item. We have a motion on the floor to open up the walking trails. All those in favor?
Carried now.
All right, it is carried. Going to our next agenda item, item point 2. Make a motion, Councillor Stenhouse.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter to the city of Fort McMurray and advertise on our electronic sign about how we're thinking about them in their desperate time right now with the flooding, the COVID, and their 4-year anniversary of the fire. I know that's kind of a discussion, not a motion.
Well, you started off with the motion and then led right into the discussion.
I'm
I
trying
think-
to convince you guys.
Yeah, well, but just before we start the discussion, just to summarize, the motion is to send a letter of, I'll say, might not be the right word,
Condolences.
condolences to Fort McMurray.
Right, and to
Period.
advertise. Okay, okay.
Oh, and
I
to,
wanna advertise on our sign too.
okay, so that's the 2 parts to your motion there. Okay.
The municipality of Wood Buffalo.
Yes, correct.
Okay, now you can try to convince us, and then you get your time to convince us, and then I see Councillor Danaka's got her hand up.
Okay. I know that Councillor Gilroy also mentioned that Fort Vermilion is flooding and some other place. I do understand that, but the water is receding in Fort Vermilion. However, Fort McMurray is taking a terrible hit in the last 4 years. And that's why I really want them to know that we're thinking of them too.
Okay, Councillor Danaka.
I understand what Fort McMurray's going through, but what makes them so special? We haven't done anything for Nova Scotia and they're shooting victims.
We didn't we didn't have a council meeting in between when that happened, or we should have done something about it. That's when the email should have went out.
Okay, Councillor Courtley.
Well, we didn't really discuss Nova Scotia, but we did put the flags at half mast for the RCMP that was killed in the Nova Scotia shooting, though, Donna. Right? We did that. It shows support, although we didn't say it vocally, but it shows it on our front lawn that we are thinking of and honoring her. I think with that, maybe we should have gone one step further and put it on the sign that we are thinking of that community. Maybe we still can. Nothing. It's never too late, right? So we can do that. I'm all for showing support for the Wood Buffalo and Fort Vermilion as well, but we still have to look right at home here. We have a lot of flood victims right here in Big Lakes County, just north of town here, and north and northeast here. Homes are underwater, literally halfway up their garage doors. Just out here at 4 miles north of town. So we have, we don't have to go very far to look for try to support people. So we should keep that all in mind.
All right, anybody else want to weigh in on this? I see Councillor Gilroy.
I have no problem sending support letters like this to other municipalities, but I think we also need to, so we don't get wrapped up in everything that happens, every fire, every flood, everything that happens to every town across Alberta in the future, that is, I think we need to have some sort of criteria to look at this, because it could be quite consuming, us coming to the fires now. We just talked about Fort Vermilion. We just talked about Big Lakes County. We know that this is something that happens a lot. We could be talking about High River with the devastation because of all the people positive because of the food plant there. I mean, I think we need to have some sort of criteria in which to send support so that we can be consistent.
All right, anybody else want to speak? We have a motion to send a letter and advertise on the screen for the Wood Buffalo municipality. Seeing no more comments, all those in favor? All right, that motion will pass. All right, some good discussion there. Moving on now to agenda item 10.1. Can I get a motion regarding the weed inspectors? Councillor Long. Oh, and
That council appoint Sheila Kaus and Kendra Kozdraski to be the municipal weed inspectors for 2020. I hope I said their names correctly.
Okay. Anything to add to that, Brian?
Just that
Mr. Martin.
they have to be appointed every year. I asked because Sheila's been working for the county for a number of years now, and I asked them if we could appoint her at one time, and that would be good forever until she left the position. And they say, no, it's got to be appointments every year.
All right, any other discussion on this one? Pretty straightforward. Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, I see Michael's hands up. Is that a check mark or you got your fingers don't quite fit on the iPad to show?
Yeah, so yeah, I was just voting.
Okay, and that's a vote for?
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Therefore, that motion will pass regardless, but all right. And I had just before that, I know that Councillor Danaka had her hands up for that last motion, and I took Councillor Long's. When I was looking at the screen, I saw his hand waving versus the electronic hand up. So I apologize for that. I'm not sure who was first in all of that. We'll move on to the next agenda item, and it's the Intermunicipal Subdivision Development Appeal Board. Can I get a motion? Councillor Stenhouse.
That council give third and final reading to bylaw 07-2020, the ISADB bylaw, this 28th day of April 2020.
All right. Mr. Martinson, did we make some changes before we brought this back, or is it the same one from before?
There was some basically clerical errors or whatever, cleanup of the bylaw. So we had Big Lakes County do that and send it over to us, and this is the final result.
All right, Councillor Gilroy.
Just want to point out that the membership is 3 members from each section. And one of our discussions previously was actually, if we had 3 councillors, what happens to any member at large that wanted to be involved? By passing this, we leave no option for any public member to be involved. We have strictly 3 counselors, so we can actually have no one from the public be on this particular board after we had talked about that at the previous meeting. So just to put it, just remind you of that, because that was one thing we discussed. So I was thinking that we should probably, if in our case, no offense to our mayor, but if we could have got 1 public person and 2 counselors, because we have 2 really good counselors who are 1 and 2, that probably would have been the right.
Okay, I think they're just taking, you can only have 1 counselor on, but we weren't getting anybody from the public before, and that was the only reason that Councillor Rose and I had said that we would join this on this committee.
I don't know if I talked to a person from the public and they were willing to be on it. I don't know if they applied yet, but just my point is this, is that if we do it this way, according to the bylaw, how do we fit in the public if you're only allowed to have the 1 counselor there and you need public members?
Mr. Martinson, do you want to explain the process?
I believe the other municipalities have the choice of the 12 members of who they want to pull, with only 1 elected official on that committee.
So if everybody put on 3 counselors, you couldn't hold a meeting, right? If everybody had theirs was 3 elected officials, you officially couldn't have a meeting. So I totally agree that we need to have the public involved, and we stated that at the last meeting. But we did agree to do it in the meantime. However, that training has been delayed. And if there is somebody that is interested, they could certainly put their name forward. And I'm sure Councillor Rose or myself would not be upset over not being on that committee. All right, Councillor Stenhouse. Oh, no question. Mr. Martinson.
I just let council know that I did have an application for a member at large to sit on the ISDAB, and it'll be coming to the next meeting.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So the thing of this, else with any issues with it? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Okay, I have a question. Is it the ISDAB bylaw or is it the ISADB bylaw?
Well, it's the Intermunicipal Subdivision Appeal Board bylaw, right? Subdivision and development.
It should be ISDAB.
Okay, Councillor Danaka, did you vote on whether you support this? Okay, that motion will pass also.
But did we just do a false one there? Because what was the original motion? Was it the ISADB or the ISDAB? It's important we actually pass the right motion.
It should have read ISDAB.
But what was the motion?
Councillor Stenhouse made the motion.
Yeah, but the motion was as it was written in our
right.
package?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So we passed the wrong motion.
That's right. That board doesn't even exist, whatever I read.
ISDAB.
So we
So
need to vote on
intermission.
this one. Or Judy changes her motion.
Let me change it.
Can she change it after the vote's already gone? I don't think so.
No, we can't change a motion
We
that's
have to
already
make a
been
motion
passed.
to defeat to change this one and then go back, I think.
Yeah,
Ask Michael, he knows everything.
I think that is the correct procedure because we've passed this motion at this time. We'd have to go back and rescind that motion and then make a new motion.
What's the change?
Sorry, so just to summarize it, in here, it's in the request for a decision document, it says the ISADB, and it should read the ISDAB. So it's a very small change, but it does change what's the, we know sort of what we're talking about, but for the longevity of this motion, it should read correctly.
But the bylaw is still 07-2020, right?
Yes, yep.
Yes.
That's just in commas or brackets. That's not the actual bylaw. The bylaw is 07-2020.
The name of the bylaw versus the official number.
Okay. Well,
Okay, it's
I-
split
Councillor
hairs.
If it gets
Long.
brought forward to council next time around with a correction, that would suffice, I think.
We can't just amend it now?
Well, we passed the motion as it was. I suppose if we have no objections, the other way of doing it is just to do a friendly amendment and change those two letters around. But we could rescind that last motion and make another motion that's correct also. Let's go with just the rescinding and then putting in the correct wording. Let's do it that way. So I see Councillor Stenhouse with her hand up. Is that from before? Or are you ready to rescind your motion?
I would like to rescind my motion. With, okay.
Okay. The previous motion. I'll clear our voting board. So everybody in favor of the rescinding? And Councillor Courtleys, they go, he's stalling. All right, that passes. So anybody like to make a new motion with the change to the lettering? I see nobody making that motion.
I will, Brian, if you want.
Okay, go ahead.
The council give third and final reading to bylaw 07-2020, the ISDAB. Is that right?
Yep.
That's correct.
Bylaw this 28th day of April 2020.
All right. And we've already been through this one, so I think we're fair just to vote. All in favor? All right. Well, it passes. All right, moving on then to our next agenda item. The RFD on the appointment to the Recreation Committee, 10.3. Can I get a motion, Councillor Danaka?
I make a motion that council appoint Colleen McAloon as a member at large to the Recreation Master Plan Committee.
Okay, thank you. All right, I see Councillor Gilroy with his hand up. Go ahead.
So we can be safe to say that there's one more spot on that particular board that that we can still advertise for. Okay, I just want to make sure that people understand that who are going to be watching this on the town website.
Okay, any other comments on this one? Councillor Rose?
So Councillor Gilroy, did you say that there's still one more spot on that committee, so people are going to be able to watch that?
I
Or did you
asked if
saying
there
that
was,
we
because
just-
I thought it was 2 originally, and that's only 1 appointed.
So Brian Martinson, can you clarify? It's 1 from the county and 1 from the town, so we've just filled our spot. Is that correct?
Yes, we advertised for it though. And we never received
That's how
any,
we're filling it.
we never received any applications from the county residents.
So we're still waiting for the 1.
Yes,
Are we going to continue to advertise for the county one, or is the county doing
Yes.
that?
no, we are.
So then
So-
we tell people who are watching that we're looking for 1 county representative now, right? Thank you, Councillor Rose.
Now, does the county appoint their member or do we appoint their member?
We do.
Okay. Did they make a recommendation to us or who did they apply to?
They applied to the town.
Okay. And don't we get a reference from the county or nothing to do with them?
Nothing to do with them.
Okay. All right. Any other discussions on this topic? Seeing none, let's vote. Okay, that motion passes. Moving on then to our next agenda item, which is our CAO's report and action list. Can I get a motion for that one? Councillor Gilroy?
The council received the CAO's Brian Martinson's report and action list for information.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to it, Brian?
Just that I have 100% of my staff, full-time staff at work. Nobody's off.
Good. Okay, Councillor Danaka.
What are we doing with our campground?
Closed. And it's going to remain closed.
So being that that's I don't know how many people are going to be camping, being that that's the dump, is that going to impede those people who are traveling camper-wise for a spot to offload their effluent?
I haven't talked to the public works guys yet about that, but we'll leave a number on the gate. And then if somebody wants to stop during regular business hours and dump, then we'll open the gates.
Okay,
I guess we can extend it to more because the on-call guys will put their number on that also.
Okay, Councillor Courtley.
Well, we can check with the Elks too, because I don't know if they've locked up or closed up their campground out there at the Elks Hall, because they have a trailer dump facility there as well, right?
Yes.
For vehicles. So maybe work in conjunction with them if they, because I don't know if they physically can gate that or not. So something just a phone call to Jerry, maybe he'd know.
Yeah. I'll make a note.
Okay, Councillor Gilroy.
2 questions. I noticed you put the update on Jennifer Messig. Any updates on that? And secondly, the mayor asked me to talk about the emergency training or emergency response for our town as we're going into fire season. We don't want to be unprepared. We want to make sure that we have been updated and we're working in conjunction well with the county and with FCSS and with AHS, all these partners, So I'd like to know when we will be able to have some sort of coordinated meeting so we can have a plan in place before all this starts this year.
I was talking to Pat Olansky from the county, and they're trying to organize something right now. So in regards to the training, and I haven't heard back from Jennifer since I sent her the email on the pricing.
And I imagine doing any training now with social distancing, that's going to be some challenging times too with some of that. But I know that some of our people are working together on making sure plans are in place as best we can. Okay, any other hands? I had a couple of questions, and I know I talked to you a little bit, Brian, but maybe you can fill in all of council on leakage from the new arena roof.
The repairs have been done, and during the spring melt, we had no leaks at all up there. Right now, the Sports Palace full-time employees have replaced all the ceiling tiles as far as they can reach until the gymnastics club remove their padding there, what's on the floor. They're putting in another false floor up there where the leak was, replacing that floor and then putting in a drop and done flooring. Drywall's also going up prior to the flooring being put down.
Okay, thanks for that. And the other question I had as I was starting to think about the visitor information center. We were working with the county. We were going to get a new website developed, but I haven't heard anything more. It's just sort of been lost out there. What's the update on that online visitor information center?
I'll have to get a hold of Victoria tomorrow, and I haven't heard nothing back from them either on what's happening with their site either. So.
Okay. Yeah, perhaps you could just update us, because I thought we were supposed to be meeting to try to determine what we wanted, and they were using some of the grant money to put together a list, but of who should be on there. But I haven't heard much more after that. All right, any other questions for our CAO? Okay, just one other comment. I probably should have done it when when Vern was up, but it was good to see that the street sweeper is out and around and cleaning the roads. It sure makes a difference in cleaning up what the town looks like. I think it's great to see that getting around town. Okay, with that, we have a motion to receive the CAO's report and action list for information. All of those in favor? All right, that motion passes. And now we can move on to our written and verbal reports. We'll start with Councillor Danaka.
I don't have any report, but I did send out to all of you the update from the library virtual meeting we had. I believe we're having another one tomorrow. I will send an update then. As well, I also sent everyone an update from Darlene at the museum and Lauren at the museum as to what they've been working on. Nobody responded with any questions, so I'm assuming they were all pleased. So I move my non-verbal report for information.
Okay, any questions for Councillor Danaka? Seeing none, let's voting on receiving her report. All right, that passes. We'll move on to Councillor Gilroy.
As I am sure that everyone else is going to report on all the meetings we've been at over the last little while. Other than that, I have not been at any meetings, so a rarity here. I have no report. And Michael wants to vote on that.
All right, not likely to have no questions or any questions on no report. So I'll give everybody a second if they want to ask a question, but seeing none, all those in favor?
They usually don't vote on no reports.
All right, that passed. Oh, okay. Councillor Long?
No report. And again, I just caution when we start to reopen the community to go slow. The second wave is going to come, and it's got nothing to do with how you feel. It has everything to do with about science and what we've been told what not to do. And so again, 1 in 4 seniors dies from this. And the more we open it up, the more we increase the chances of having someone else having their loved one infected because we said it was okay. And I know we're not opening it up all throughout town. I know it's just a walking trail. Inch takes a mile every time. And I just hope that the people do mind their social distancing, but we're too soon. And insofar as the in-camera meeting, again, we are not smarter than the MGA, and this is not a personnel issue. But we are in our second term, and so we now know better. So we're going to make these silly mistakes. Don't do it. Other than that, everybody stay safe, please, and we'll see you next meeting. I move my non-verbal.
I have a question for Councillor Long about his concern over the opening up of the walking trail versus maybe a store that you work in, Michael. Like, so for example, Pops that's opened as an essential service. Do you feel that the walking trail? Do you feel that the walking trail is more at risk than going into the hardware store?
We have heard over and over how this is a war, and that we're fighting this war like our fathers and our grandfathers did before us. You know what? This is an inconvenience. You asked me, I'm answering. It's an inconvenience, and it sucks. And we're sitting with our grandchildren in our home, and we don't take them out unless we're right there on the side yard and walking around. And we go, one person shops for 2 families. We are trying our best. And so now we have a council who thinks that they don't need to listen to the experts and the doctors and our Canadian chief surgeon. They are saying, don't do this. When Philadelphia had a parade for celebrating over the Spanish flu, 220,000 people died. This is not something to be taken lightly, and your inconvenience does not bother me at all. It doesn't, because my safety, the safety of my children, the safety of the loved ones that I know in this community is far more important than my inconvenience. And so walk around in your living room 100 times. Find out what your Fitbit says, how far it is from upstairs to downstairs, and redo it. But this is not something that because someone feels that we should open it up now because she's got a feeling the weather's going to be great and people are going to be stir crazy. This is not the time for us to be acting that way. We are elected officials that are here for the betterment of this community, and that means everybody. And how many more people in JB Woods has to get sick? We need to follow the guidelines that are set out to us by the professionals in this field. None of us, which are, not one of you, you're making it on the assumption that your gut, that you have a feeling that this is going to be something appreciated by people. It sure will. There will be a lot of people who appreciate it. But for those of us who are trying as hard as we can, and I go my 3 days a week as an essential service frontline worker, and we do more cleaning and more sanitization of every square inch of that store. so that you can go in and shop safely. This is not anything to do with that. This is allowing the town to open up one of its facilities so that people can use it so that they're not inconvenienced and they feel better. And it's wrong. Wrong. And so I'm sorry if I come off passionate, but I've been living this. I did my isolation. I have my grandkids with us. We are living as one unit. What have you done? You travel all over. So no.
Michael, let's not. I was just a question. I'm disappointed that you can't just answer the question. It was just a question.
Didn't I answer it?
No, because you know what you're
Where
saying.
is your science coming from? Where's
Michael,
the science that you
hold on,
use to tell me?
Michael, you're saying that we are going against the province. We identified tonight what the province has said. We identified that other walking trails throughout the province are open. So how can you sit there and say that this council is on a whim going, following our own gut and what we want? We are doing exactly what the province is doing, and we're asking administration to open up the trail. So I'm very disappointed in your comments, and I'm very disappointed that you're allowed to sit there and rant about them.
Oh my goodness. So again, this is something that is unprecedented in our life. And you're leaving it, you're putting it back on my shoulders for being upset that we're not being safe enough. Unbelievable.
I just asked you a question.
You said it, not me. Good for you. Thank you.
All right, I'll open it up to Councillor Gilroy.
Actually, Councillor Long made a good point just now, because I went back to look at the motion that we passed. We did not pass the motion that the walking trails would be open. We passed a motion that we would lift all restrictions on the park. So in a sense, the motion we passed would allow anyone to meet in the park as well as the walking trails. And all we're talking about right now is the walking trails. So I would caution us to look back at that particular motion before this meeting's over. If you mean just the walking trails, then you need to specify just the walking trails. And just like we made this mistake on the ISDAB, I think we need to be careful that that particular motion says strictly walking trails, if that's what the council is saying. If not, we're opening the park up, because the motion I had written down here was that we were lifting the restrictions on the park. And secondly, we have more than one walking trail. How many people walk along the back trail behind St. Andrews? That's a walking trail too. So there's a lot of different avenues here. I'm not saying a negative thing in that sense, but I wanted to make sure that we've made the right motion that we're discussing right now. And secondly, Councillor Long, your point earlier about things said in public should be apologized in public. I don't mean to be mean, but I would like, and I mentioned this before, a public apology for suggesting that we should raise the honorarium to get a better class or a better slate of candidates, when I believe we have good candidates right now. So if you're suggesting that Councillor Rowe should have publicly apologized for something said on the net, then I would like you to do the same thing, just in all fairness.
Okay, we're getting way off topic on his report, and we're going.
And that statement is not mine uniquely. I don't own that statement, but it has been one that's been repeated by others, and so it's. I don't know if it's something to apologize. If I've offended people, then I apologize. But you're welcome.
Okay, and just going back to that one concern, I don't know the motion that we passed for sure. I didn't write it down. My understanding, and I believe the understanding of council, is that it's only the walking trails, because we do not want to open up the campground part of JC Park, and we do not want to open up the baseball diamond portion of JC Park. So there are those three facilities in JC Park. I thought we were pretty clear it was just the walking trails, at least from our discussions.
Motion 8.1.
Mr. Martinson.
The motion I got is that council lift the restrictions on opening the JC Park walking trails.
Okay, thank you for that, Brian. Okay, we'll get a motion to receive your report, Michael.
Again, it was a non-verbal non-report, but for what it's worth, I moved my report, non-report for affirmation council.
All in favor?
Wouldn't that be funny if it was defeated?
Okay, it is passed. Okay, so moving on now to myself. No report. All of the meetings have been the same ones everybody's been in, so I got nothing to really enlighten you on that I haven't, that we've already been in. There's been a couple other ones, but we've talked about them in the other meetings. So no report from me. Moving on to Councillor Courtley.
Just I just want to let everybody know that I talked to Lee Barton at West Fraser. I phoned him specifically to find out how things are going there with the manpower and markets and stuff like that, because I want some background information on our future meeting coming up here with how and what we're gonna deal with here with the COVID, right? So he makes no bones about it. They're in tight. They still have everybody employed, all 130 people, but they're at a zero profit margin. Markets are super down. They don't have really a lot of sales. They do have a few surprising orders come in, and they're thankful for that. But all in all, if it stays like this for any length of time here in the next week or two, they're gonna have to make some major decisions, right? And they're making capital decisions across the country, across their company. They're cutting back all new capital programs as far as upgrades or expansions or fixing things that need to be fixed. So just to relay what I was talking about with him, just so everybody has an idea. The softwood market for OSB is even worse right now. I was trying to get a hold of somebody at Tolko, but I was unable to, just to see how they're doing for manpower. They're still operating, mind you, but they're in the same boat. The markets are low. They're piling product out front where they shouldn't be piling product, the finished product, right? So the writing's on the wall there. Both mills will be in bad here within the next month if things don't change. So ourselves here, we laid off 13 people. So we're down to a skeleton crew, no different than any other place in the community. So just to keep in mind that this is as it goes, it's getting worse and worse. Did anybody catch our homeboy Adam Laughlin speak for the city of Edmonton yesterday morning? No? They're laying off over 900 employees in the city of Edmonton right now as we speak. They're canceling a lot of the different programs and projects they're doing there in the city of Edmonton as well. They're in a tailspin right now. So he was actually quite emotional about that. It's worth searching and listening to it. He does a really good job. For anybody that doesn't know Adam, that's Dr. Laughlin's son, Adam Laughlin. He is the city manager now. So, but you should search that out and listen to that and listen to what he has to say and what they're doing. They're making massive changes. So, yeah, that's just keep on fighting, everybody. That's all I got. Move my verbal report for information.
Councillor Gilroy has a question.
No, I just want to say something positive. I had a phone call from someone who actually wants to move up here, who's been offered a job. at the hospital up here and was phoning to find out about our community and wanted some positive reinforcements. So there are some. And Arlen, you are correct with unemployment and challenges there. But one of the biggest challenges that I know of right now is staffing our hospital. We are pulling people in from all over the region, including as far away as Calgary. We're bringing people in because we don't have the staff due to the self-isolation and things like that. It's amazing how many people are being pulled into our community from all over Alberta right now. In fact, if we add Manoir to it, then you've got people who've come, we know, as far away as Ontario to fill the gaps. So there are some industries that are crying for workers, and then there are some others who are being hit really hard. And so we need to balance that. But as I said, I was very excited when that person phoned me and said they were offered a job at our hospital and they were looking to find out more about our community. So there are some, we have to be aware that there will be some positive people as well who will need every one of our people in our community to be an ambassador to promote our town. Because that's going to be more important than a logo. It's going to be promote our town. And the voice of Arlen and everybody else is going to be extremely important in building this town back up. So I just want to be positive as well. But Arlen, I appreciate your concerns.
All right.
Okay, he moved his report for information. All those in favor?
Do I have to vote on my own?
Yep. All right, Councillor Rose.
So there's FCSS services are being offered mostly by phone and by email now. And there is a list of services that they're doing and that they're not doing. Now, I posted that on our town council Facebook page and I provided it to, I believe, Marion, and she's probably posted it on the town page too. But does anybody have any questions about FCSS services, that what we're doing and what we're not doing? Or if you're good, we'll just move on. If anybody has any questions, I can forward on that that email that gives you the instructions as to how to sort of advise residents if they're having questions about whatever normal FCSS services, and then there's some additional ones. One thing that FCSS has canceled is the volunteer appreciation, I guess, luncheons or suppers or banquets that they have. And with that, I think it's I mean, and that's sad. It's unfortunate that we can't do that. And I'm wondering, Brian Martinson, if the town could post something in sort of appreciation of Volunteer Week that maybe we can at least sort of recognize, and then we can, whether it be on our website or are we doing that on the electronic sign? Because it should have been this week that everybody got sort of appreciated, and that sort of is going to get missed. But it's something you guys can maybe consider if administration wants to do that. And then the last thing is in preparation for our tax relief meeting that's coming up. I'm curious about, and I know Councillor Courtley did some phone call work, and I know that I've done a little bit too, just with local businesses, just to get a sense of who needs the support and who doesn't need the support. But Mr. Martinson, are you guys doing that, or do you think it's possible that you guys can do some prep work with the community so we really can get a good sense of how many residents are truly out of work or businesses that are shut down? Because I mean, there's a couple businesses that I spoke to that I thought they were going to give me the doom and gloom, and they're saying that they were like really slow for the first 2 weeks and didn't know how to handle things, and then boom, they're just going crazy. So I don't know for sure the answer, and I would love to see that we have that detail going into that meeting. Do you think there'll be somebody that could support maybe making some phone calls, Brian?
Reach out to the chamber. No. Oh.
Okay, there you go.
I'll
Okay,
see what
well,
I can
here's
do.
what we can get.
So there was two questions there you had, Debbie. What was your first one was regarding putting something up for volunteers? Yeah, volunteer appreciation. And I mean, I mean, those are just suggestions too. So, I mean, it's up to you guys whether you guys
We will
find the time to fit that.
That's
And
Councillor
I
right
will-
in
Gilroy.
here, so
Uh,
we'll put something up.
Since
Okay,
since
thanks.
Councillor Rose brought it up, do you think, Councillor Rose, that if the administration put together a very quick survey monkey on to address this, that we could advertise it right away and get some answers before the meeting? Would that be something you'd be interested in?
You know, I'm not certain the best way to do it. And I am a bit confused about the effects, right? So I think it is important to, I don't know, what does everybody think? Like, how are we going to get this information? I mean, we can leave it up
Good
to
question.
administration. That's certainly a tool they can use.
Just walk around town and count all the businesses that are closed. That's
Right.
Oh, yeah. Go down our street and take a look at that business or that building. Yeah.
Yeah, serious. No, I just do your own canvas, walk around town or drive around town and have a quick look. Takes a matter of 5 minutes. You can see everybody that's closed that should be open.
And
Councillor
Arlen, I
Rose was
just
also
follow-
talking,
Affected anyways.
Councillor
did
Rose was
follow
also
up.
talking about our taxpayers other than our business people as well. And that's why I was saying Survey Monkey, so we can get the residents as well as the businesses.
No, I mean, it's not a horrible idea. I don't know the best way to reach everyone, or, you know, sort of grab that information in a bit of a nutshell so we have it. But I would like to see that we have more information than just what I think or what you think. You know, it'd be nice to sort of see that we actually reached out. It would be great to be able to get some sort of list from the chamber. You could give that a try. But there's also just residents in general that are unemployed, and we don't really know. We don't really know the effect of that, or like how deep is that challenge, right? But
Okay.
anyway, that is all I have to say. So I will move my report for information.
All those in favor? Okay, that passes. And our last, the ayes in there, Councillor Stenhouse.
All right. I don't have a report, but I got a question. Because I never received any emails of any reports, but everybody's telling a little story, and they want to move their non-verbal report for information. So how is it non-verbal if you're talking?
It probably. Right.
Right? It's a verbal report for,
Exactly.
A verbal
And-
report.
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but everybody's saying, well, I want to move my non-verbal report for information, but everybody's talking. And I'm going to poke the bear here and ask if Councillor Long is so opposed to a walking trail, why have we not shut down the sidewalks then?
Wow. First off, I'm not opposed to opening walking trails, just not now. Science, not feelings.
But our
So
sidewalk.
whatever feeling you have and whatever feeling or argument that you have that's based upon your feelings or stomach or gut feeling, so what? It's not based on science. Mine is.
I don't have a feeling. It's my observation that I see people walking down the highway, down the sidewalk,
Yes.
middle of the street. It's an observation.
So we should be opening up town facilities because people are walking down the middle of a street.
Yeah, it's all
Judy.
about safety. It's all about safety.
It is. It's all about safety. So
Yeah.
there's laws that tell people they shouldn't be walking down the middle of a street, right? So if they choose to disobey that, that's their problem. But the fact of the matter remains, any argument you pose to me is pointless because it's based on nothing but a feeling, an observation. Mine is based on what we've been told by our chief. What? You know more than our medical professionals?
It's
Don't
not a
furrow
feeling.
your
Where does
brow.
the feeling come from?
Okay, I don't
You're
know if we're going to
observing
resolve
me.
this here,
No, we're
guys.
not going to resolve this. And the science says they know nothing about this virus or how it's
Oh,
transferred.
for
So
God's sake.
Okay.
No,
They-
you're wrong.
Hold
You are
on, you
wrong.
guys.
Wrong. And if
Okay.
you're going to try to spread Fox News out on this council chamber, do it somewhere else. You're wrong. And you cannot say that what, oh my gosh, Judy. This,
Okay, I have muted everybody because we're way, way off topic on that. We have to draw a line under that. That's some discussions. We've already had the chat about doing the walking trails. That's a decision that we've already made. We're going off, and so I just want to move back on to Councillor Stenhouse motion or her report. Can we get you to make a motion there?
Okay, I actually did not have a report. It was just a statement I was making.
Okay. Okay, so moving on then, that is the end of our agenda. We would need a motion to move into camera, and I'll make that motion. And it's that council move into session as per section 17 of the Freedom, Information and Protection Act in accordance with section 197 subsection 2 of the Municipal Government Act.
now, if I may, what exactly does that subsection 2 tell us? What does that whole part of that act tell us? This does not say that this is something that qualifies for in camera.
I'm gonna pass that over to our CAO because that was what he had mentioned.
That's under that list that you have under this. Oh, that's what you had at your desk, right? No, no, no. Just wait, she's gonna go back to her desk and get it.
So, should I be proven wrong? Do you think it's fair for us to go in camera to talk about a person whose employer is in that group, and then how is that fair to that person? What right do we have to talk about that person in a negative way or in any way? Are we going to this meeting to have a nice warm fuzzy discussion about this person? No, we're going to be talking about what? This is not going to be a positive meeting for this person. And she is getting thrown under the bus, I think, if you guys go into this meeting. This is wrong.
Okay.
I don't usually get too wound up on two issues in one meeting, but for crying out loud, Brian, you're our mayor.
Okay, can I respond? Okay, thank you. The reason is that this person from the staff did not make their name public. We don't want to publicize their name. And having a discussion without it would not be, in my opinion, is why we would be putting it in camera. And that was the reason. It's protecting their freedom of information. In my view, and I don't know, I'm not sure where the discussion will go, this isn't something that's going to be negative for the employee at all. I don't see this as anything that the employee's done wrong. It's the proper process for handling these kinds of issues, not the issue that was brought up. That's, I mean, we can certainly discuss that, and we need to make sure that we're all on the same wavelength moving forward, but it is to protect the employee, not anybody else.
The employee whose name was brought up in public before by the counselor at this discussion.
Nobody's brought it up. We've talked about.
Councillor Long, no name was ever brought up at
And that-
any council meeting. You can
Yeah.
listen back to the recording. There was one statement that was made at a
Yes.
council meeting that someone took offense with and then drew attention to and wrote a long email and sent it to all council and to CAO. No name was brought up because, as I've identified with Mr. Martinson, when I made the comment that I made, it had no bearing on one person.
No, collectively, it was all of them.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
there was no name ever brought up. There wasn't a position. There wasn't a. I made a comment that
Yes, you
it
did.
used the word staff in it. That was it. Staff. And
Okay.
someone took offense with that.
We have
No
Mr.
name.
Martinson, and then we'll have Mr. Gilroy. Mr. Martinson might have the reading of it, and then Mr. Gilroy.
Section 17. Is disclosure harmful to personal privacy? Reveals information about an identifiable individual, including their name, address, telephone number, identifying symbol, or other identifiable information.
That was
When-
why I thought it should be there.
Yeah.
Councillor
Well,
Gilroy.
I have concerns as well. I mean, the concern, we've already been starting talking about this stuff already. And I'm not sure that, once again, that this is something that should go in camera. It's if every time a counselor, their words are misunderstood or they use the wrong words, we go into camera because someone complains, that's an abuse of the system. That's why I had asked, I asked Councillor Long to apologize because his words, though they were harmless, were taken to be offensive, and he apologized publicly. Why are we wasting council's time this way? It's a simple thing of saying, my words are mistaken. I did not intend to have this taken other than da-da-da-da-da. Why are we going into council for something like this? I thought personnel things had to do more with contracts, discipline, things like that, and this is not one of them. And so I agree with Councillor Long, this should not be in council. I mean, should not be in camera.
Okay, we've had this same conversation at the start, and again, it's definitely, I mean, we could have this conversation, in my opinion, and as long as no names came up, it could be out in the open. The only reason in camera is to protect the employee if anything was to come out. That was the only reason that it was going to go into camera. Everything else could be done without it. But because we can't guarantee names wouldn't get mentioned, we thought that I thought we should go into camera and made that call. And it is a bit of a gray zone there, I grant you that. Okay, so to move into camera, we need to have a vote. And all of those in favor? Okay, that motion is going to pass, and I understand the concerns. I really do, and it's not.
Gave it my best.
Yeah. Okay,
And
so we'll take 10 minutes while everybody gets
I would like, Mayor,
clears.
I would like to put on public record that I'm totally against this.
Okay.
So I want the recorded vote on this because I'm totally against this.
Well,
I
the
don't
vote,
think
you
I-
have to ask for a recorded vote beforehand, not after.
Okay, well, at
Okay.
least people can hear it. But
All right.
if this happens again and again and again,
All right, let's take a 10-minute break and we'll go from there.
Good night.
Stop the video. stuff is from here.